Hey folks, happy Saturday. Hopefully all is well with you guys. Sending nothing but love and positivity to you. Getting ready to get on this road and check on my peoples back over in Tampa. And chat with you while I get these miles over with. Just talk to you about some random stuff that runs across my dome. Yeah, I was actually driving 75 miles per hour on I-10, and something kept telling me to slow down. But I'm like, man, I want to get these miles over with. And before I know it, I passed one of those Department of type of places, and another car pulled up real fast behind me, trying to push me to go more than 75 miles per hour. Normally I say that for when I get on 75. That's when I do 95 miles per hour. But shh, don't tell nobody. And as soon as the black car pulled up close behind me, tailgating me, police officer came right behind the black car and pulled the black car on over. I was like, oh, I gotta start listening to my intuition, because, you know, every time I second guess it, I'll be putting myself in some situations, especially with these red flags. As I was saying, okay, yeah, talking about tickets. So, and my intuition, and we all have an intuition. We just have to take out the time to listen to it. And it's just that first thought that comes to your mind. Don't be so impulsive, but at the same time, recognize when your spirit guides and your intuition, which is your inner God, is trying to guide you on the right track and keep you out of trouble. Like I said, anything that's related to spirituality is not going to come to us like in a physical way. It's not like someone is gonna yell out in the sky, hey, slow your ass down before you get a ticket. It doesn't quite work that way. It's just certain things are put in place, unexplained things, and sometimes it's for your protection and sometimes it's for a lesson. But I wanted to kind of share some things that I've experienced this week with you guys. And as you know, I'm in the education field. I'm working with primary children, and in case y'all don't know, that's pretty much elementary on up to about 5th, 6th grade. And I know that I've been in the education system so long, to where I'm very familiar with the ins and outs of how everything works and how to get your kids through the system successfully. Because like I've said before, I've had the opportunity to not only raise my own children, but I also work with other people's children, raise them up, and they all pretty much graduated. And so I had this one particular student that was just being defiant, and I kind of can tell exactly what the student is going through and what they've been through, just based on the focus of that student. So this particular student liked to come to school always worrying about lip gloss, have the finest outfits on, always keep her hair up, braided and done. If I'm not mistaken, I believe her auntie is a well-known rapper, so she sends down a lot of money from New York, and and spoiled a little girl. And so already this girl mentality is all about materialism and she focused more on that, like polishing her nails in class, dropping it like it's hot, doing recess. Recently she went and got acrylics done, and one of her nails ended up breaking off deep to the point where it took off her real nail. And it just really disturbed my soul, because I'm like, why in the world would your parents put acrylic nails on you when you barely know how to take care of your clothes and other stuff? You know what I mean? Like, she was just too young for that. And so she just crying in class and making a scene over her fingernail, and I was like, please just go to the front office so they can fix it, because you interrupting the lesson. And so, but when she came back, she had to take a test. I had to give them a math test, and she's struggling in all areas, you know. And when I gave her the test, it's like she took it in less than 5 minutes. And as soon as I looked at the test, I already knew that she needed to redo it and fix everything, because the first answer was wrong. When they ask you, how do you measure, what tool do you use to measure a room? Do you use a ruler? Do you use a yardstick? Or do you use a measuring tape? And of course she went with a ruler. And I can understand why she probably went with that, but that is not how it was taught. That's not what we use to measure a whole entire room. So I asked her, I said, well, are you going to at least try to go back over and double check your answers? What are you going to do? And she was like, I don't want to have to go back over. I know I'm good. You know, I don't want to have to go back over. And so I continue to look over the test, and I don't know, I got really annoyed, because I'm like, all the answers on this test, I already taught it in class, and she didn't even want to take out the time to go back and look over it. And I said, you know what? I called her over. I said, let me go ahead and make this sign. So I took a cardboard box, and I took a marker, and I wrote, help needed. And I told her, here, I'm going to give you this. And then she was like, why are you giving me this? I said, because you're not trying in school. You focusing on stuff that's not going to help you get to the next level. And to me, it seemed like this is what you're going to need, because apparently you don't care about your education. And so if you don't want to try hard in school, this is your next step. Here, get this sign. Let me take you a picture and let your parents know this is what you want to look like in the future. And she was like, oh, no, I promise I'll go back over. And so I had to, it's sad that I had to go that route. And maybe some people might like oppose to it and be like, nah, you shouldn't do it like that. But I got her to go back over and look over that test. So, because I wasn't going to sit there and beg. And see, for me, you got to know your students. You got to know what works with your students and what doesn't. And I know nowadays, these students and their sarcasm and their attitude and their mindset, you can't come to them with that old school, come here, baby, come. You can't beg a student to want to do work. You just can't. You got to really be creative to get them to focus and do their work. And so I guess what I really want to focus on nowadays is trying to get people to understand how the school system works, how life works, how struggles work, how to navigate this world and the lessons without failing. Because let me go ahead and put myself in a situation. My second grade, as far back as I can remember, my second grade year was the hardest year ever. I mean, I had to build mental stamina at a very early age. I was not fortunate enough to be born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up in the projects of Miami, and back in the 80s, you know, it was hardcore ghetto crack world. That's what it was like. Out of my control, but that's what it was. And I had to deal with a lot. Like, I had to come home. First off, I didn't even live close to the school, so I had to walk through some very dangerous neighborhoods just to get to school. And I'm talking about by myself 95% of the time. But when I got home, I had no one to fix me no lunch. I had no one to help me with homework. I had to pretty much rough it at a very young age. And then sometimes I even had to babysit my little sisters, making sure they're good, like, you know, when they went outside and different things like that. And when I got to school, when it was time for me to go to school, I had to deal with bullies. I had these little girls that actually, they weren't even little. They were actually older than me. And they would enjoy seeing me cry. They would just make sure they be in the right place at the right time. And I had no choice but to go to that area. And they made sure to taunt me, push me, threaten me, just to see me cry. And I ain't gonna lie, I used to cry so hard. I used to be so scared. I even soiled myself. I mean, like, I pissed on myself just because I was like, well, maybe they won't beat me up because I'm nasty and wet. I said, I just went through a lot just trying to survive. But I still managed to make it through. You know what I mean? Like, I guess because I wasn't afraid to tell my teacher I needed help. And this is what I think I'm going to name this video. Nurture versus nature. Okay? I knew that I had the right motivation to go through and push through and be successful. I just did not have the right support in the right environment. And so I had to find my inner support to say, you know what, I gotta get through this, because if I don't push and fight through school and make it through this system, I'm going to be another statistic person, just pretty much dropping out of school, teen pregnancy, and depending on the government and welfare for a living. And I'm not saying that that's always the order, because actually you can have it all and then still run into a situation where you have to depend on the government. But this is what I would like for people to understand, and the point of this video. You cannot expect a child to be 100% successful in school if the environment is not right. And I'm not saying that there's some kids that haven't made it through to the next level, living in a rough environment, but I'm going to say a lot of these students fall between the cracks. They are the reason why we have this education gap going on, because they're not fortunate enough to come home to parents that can really put time into understanding what they're learning in school. And then on top of that, if they're living in a impoverished or low income or the project type neighborhood, there is a lot of distractions. I mean, you got to deal with, you know, bullying. You got to deal with crime. You got to deal with a lot of things that you may be lacking that other kids may have. But you're still expected to pass that same state test. You're still expected to get your work in the same way and perform at the same level. So honestly, you know, they keep preaching about equality in education, but they're still lacking a lot of considerations when it comes down to children and their environment. Not everybody go home and have a nice meal to eat. Not everybody go home and have their lights on, you know? And so I keep that in mind when I am working with my kids. So with that being said, this particular student, I learned, was exposed to Molly in her mom's stomach. And, well, you know, when she was a fetus, I guess. And then she came out, and 9 out of 10, while she was trying to, you know, fight through that as a baby with that in her system, then you got, you know, the government, which is a part, you know, which is the doctors, they work for the government, shooting the baby up with all these different types of vaccines that they claim that's supposed to be helpful and better for you, which I believe your body is born with all the nutrients and all the things that it needs to develop well. And so with this baby growing and dealing with all these different things and different chemicals going on in the body, now the baby is a child, has grown into a child, and is expected to sit through a classroom where you gotta listen to hours of learning how to count, learning how to read, learning how to write, learning this, learning that. And so when the child is not performing right, now we got parents looking like, okay, well, what is the teacher doing? Why is my child failing? Okay, but are you looking at the whole picture? Or are you just looking at, okay, why is my child failing? Because I'm the type of teacher, I'm not going to give your child an A+ if your child did not earn it. I'm not going to lie for you and your child. I'm just not. And I feel like, okay, if your child already been exposed to all these different chemicals and it's affecting the child's ability to sit and retain information and perform at the rate that they need to perform, that is a problem that need to be fixed at home. We're teachers, we're not miracle workers. And I get a lot of parents that really just don't get that. If you're not taking out the time to help your child with homework, if you're not taking out the time to find out why your child can't sit still and listen for more than 5 minutes and recall information. Now let me tell you about a lot of these students. Now, a lot of these students can recall rap songs. They can recall how to drop it like it's hot and twerking. They can recall GTA game plays and all of this, but they can't recall the difference between a noun and a verb. This is everyday language, people, and it is not my fault that that's not working out well. I can come in the classroom with a clown suit on. I can do all these special tricks and teach, but guess what they're going to be focusing on? They're going to wonder why I'm walking around with a big wig on and some colorful clothes. They're not going to even want to focus on what the point that I'm trying to make, the educational part. And yes, I do believe education need to be revised, especially a lot of these curriculums that they keep saying, oh, this is scientific based. I feel like if they have to provide vaccines for these students to not catch whatever they create in the lab, because that's all it is. They create stuff in the lab, they put it out in public, and then they say, oh, well, we got to give your child a shot so they won't get this, but then there's side effects with the shot. It's just, all of it need to be revised. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like I'm ranting and raving, but, you know, a lot of people be like, ooh, I'm not taking no chances. Let me tell you, I done had a lot of shots, especially the chicken pox shot, and still got the chicken pox. I done had the flu shot, still had the flu, still got sick, and still get sick every other season. So I don't know. I don't know. To me, it doesn't make sense. And it seems like the more vaccines they put out there, the more struggles these students have. I don't know why there's an increased rate of students born with autism. I don't know why there's at least 95% of the students that's at school dealing with ADHD. Okay, could it be that it's a lot of the sugary foods? Or could it be really the shots? I really don't understand how all of this is increasing in less than 10 years, you know? So I don't know. It's gonna require teamwork. That's what they always say. It takes a village to raise a child. Well, some of these doctors need to start focusing on holistic healing. Some of these people that's higher up in the government sector need to figure out ways of of us teachers educating the students without force, because everybody doesn't learn the same. We cannot force every student to sit down and retain information the same way. So no matter how creative we can be as teachers, it still requires teamwork. Everybody got to play their part. Everybody got to do their part. But yeah, it just kind of hit me heavy. Like, man, you know, it's just crazy. It's crazy out here. It's really crazy. And like I said, these students, they're going to be our future. We're going to have to rely on them to run the show. When we get too old or too weak to be able to do what we need for ourselves, we got to depend on these same students that's more focused on this hip-hop rap type stuff, talking about, you know, getting high and having sex. I mean, that's another thing too. I just recently posted a video about these students, you know, doing things. I don't know if it's subconsciously, I don't know if it's consciously, I don't know what it is, but they're being exposed to a lot of inappropriate things at an early age. So their hormones are raging. Their hormones are very active at an early age. Now, from my understanding, I heard it has a lot to do with soy foods and the estrogen amounts, the high amounts of estrogen they put in cow milk, cheese, and butter, and all that kind of stuff. And then we wondering why kids are already talking about girlfriend and boyfriend. One of my students was talking about that, and I said, you know what? Spell girlfriend, spell boyfriend. If you can't spell that, then you don't need to be talking about that. So, parents, we need to really figure out a way to make and bring changes. We cannot assume that the government know what's best for us, because they're not even from here. Half of the people that's running the show and running the shots, they're talking about things that work for their people in their world. But they can't come over here and set up different traps and different weird systems and expect us to perform and do the same thing that they do. You know, so my voice alone ain't gonna make the changes. It's gonna take teamwork. It's gonna take all of us to, you know, stop being blind and caught up with materialism. You know, yeah, of course you want to be comfortable, but at the same time, you are prepared. Your purpose, if you got children, you got to prepare for them to be successful and survive in the system, because the American system is very different from the Asian system, very different from Germany's system, very different from a lot of these systems over in the other worlds, other continents and countries. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that a little bit, and I'll be back in touch with you guys. Look like it's time for me to get me a wake up drink, because I done drunk up all of my sauces. But yeah, y'all take it easy, stay encouraged, and know the information I share with you is out of love. You can take it or leave it. Other than that, peace out.